It's the final day of the 20th African Growth and Opportunity Act Forum in Johannesburg. AGOA, which was introduced in 2000, allows exports from more than 30 eligible African countries duty-free and quota-free access to the lucrative U.S. market. President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for more reforms and backs the call to have AGOA renewed. eNCA reporter Aviwe Mtila is tracking that story and joins us. Good afternoon again, Aviwe. Of course, earlier on we were talking about just the urgency that African countries that are eligible should take in taking advantage and exploiting the opportunities that AGOA presents.
And certainly the conversations are centered around that very issue. The extension of the AGOA trade agreement, we do know in its current form, it lapses on the 30th of September 2025. But the call from the African ministers here of trade and industries that it should be extended for at least another 10 to 20 years. And the other aspect, of course, is the enhancement of it, how it could work better for especially the smaller businesses that have to pay huge facilitation fees, for example, just to access the American market. But just to get more insight on the current conversations that are happening, I am joined by the Zambian Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry. Minister, thank you for joining us at eNCA. But maybe do talk us through some of the conversations and the important decisions that are to be made here. What is Africa looking for?
First and foremost, congratulations to Africa through South Africa and the Springboks for winning the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. And secondly, thank you very much for South Africa for hosting this AGOA summit. I strongly take recognizance of Minister Ibrahim Patel of their moderation that they have done up to today. Giving me a question coming from yourself of what processes have we done and what are we trying to achieve out of this? As you may be aware, the AGOA is soon coming to an end. And many African countries have said we need to speak with one voice, which is very exciting, on how we can get the facility and scheme extended. So there have been many conversations to say, look, can we give an extension to this? Because under the AGOA facility, many African countries have seen close to 80 to 90% of their products entering the American market duty-free. But if it comes to an end at an abrupt position, what will happen? Will we be able to export to the American market? Will we be able to meet the standards? Will SMEs have grown enough to do that? There was no incubation and mentoring period between the U.S. Private sector and the Zambian African private sector. So we are very glad to say that the conversation we are having now are that can we put an extension? Obviously, it cannot be done in perpetuity. It should have a time frame. And this time frame, there should be interaction between American SMEs and African SMEs. There should be business, medium enterprises and medium enterprises in Africa, so that when that time of end comes and now duties have to be paid, African countries will have resilience fit to stand on, do business and export into the American market. Can the standards agencies of America set up in Africa so that Africa can produce right the first time for the American market? So these are conversations that we are having. Can America, through its influence other bodies like the IMF, the World Bank, lend money to Africa at an affordable rate? Because if you see, my President Hakainde Hichilema, has made it very clear. This is the same message that President Ramaphosa was even talking about yesterday. Africa is always given money at the highest interest rate. How do you expect Africa to borrow at the highest interest rate and make profit out of it? It's impossible. So the American government has been a strong partner of the African governments, and it's the reason why we are using them to support us in the lending rate, that let them give us affordable rates. Because for many years, Africa has been borrowing only to be enslaved, knowing that they will not pay back. So now we need to give value addition to our materials so that jobs are retained in Africa. Economies of scale are increased in Africa. Capital flight is limited from Africa to the parts of the world. And America has presented itself as one of those strong partners that can support us in this agenda. And so far, there's been willingness from our American colleagues to engage in these facets and see how best we can work together.
I was about to ask about the American counterparts. Are they receptive of your pleas, firstly, to extend the AGOA agreement for the number of years that are yet to be stipulated? Are there even conditions attached, maybe, in the conversations you're having inside to the extension of the AGOA trade?
One thing that I would tell you with certainty is that the Americans are committed to the conversations that we are having in a positive manner. The first demonstration of this American commitment to seeing that we work together is them leaving their comfort zone in Washington, D.C. to come and join us here and listen to us. And I continue to appreciate what the South African government has done to host this engagement, to co-chair this engagement with the American counterparts. They are very receptive. And much of the things that we have brought on the table, look, the narrative is changing. Africa is not going to the US and any part of the world as beggars. We are going as partners in development. We are not going with a begging bowl. We are going to say, we have these raw materials, we have these resources. Can they reach your markets in a finished product model? Can you support us? Because you have the capital, you have the technology, we have the resources, we have the human capital. All we need is equip us, let us work as partners, and let our products reach your economies in a semi or finished level, so that our young men and women, our men and women have got jobs. Because every time Zambia is exporting, South Africa is exporting diamonds into these European and American and Western markets as raw materials, they are polished in those countries. We've kept our young men and women out of employment. But America has got this technology. America has demonstrated over years in many aspects to support Africa in many different things. So now true friendship is where you even respond to the call of your friend. Can you give us financing at affordable rates? Can you support us with your technology so that we do it from home and we reach your market? Can you bring your standard agencies set up here? So indeed, there is so much receptiveness from the American counterparts, and we are very optimistic that this interaction as trading partners is going to be enhanced and is going to be appreciated and endorsed in the coming days. Because the colleagues that have come here from the US, led by Ambassador Catherine Kai, in my opinion, they've come to listen to our concerns so that they can lobby on our behalf from their Congress, so that we see how we make progress. So definitely I can assure you, they've shown commitment. That's the reason why they're here. And there is optimism from ourselves that AGOA can have a few restructured facilities and conditions in it where we start partnering, where we start doing joint ventures and partnerships for our development, improvement of productivity, economies of scale, so that SMEs can grow. We have discovered, not only Zambia, but the entire Africa, that no economy can grow at the expense of its people and SMEs. So we need to support our SMEs.
Need to support the SMEs. Thank you very much, Minister. Commerce, Trade and Industry Minister from Zambia, of course, just reiterating some of those discussions that are having there. And suggestions are that the U.S. administration is at this point receptive and will take whatever concerns that have been raised here by the Ministers of Trade and Industry from the African continent back to Congress in the U.S. with the hope that, of course, that much-needed extension of the AGOA trade itself is approved, and also just looking at the enhancement of how the AGOA trade itself is currently structured, making it better, especially for the SMMEs. But we do know, of course, we're expecting the official feedback from South Africa's Trade and Industry Minister, Ibrahim Patel. That should be at around 3:30, just to give us the official deliberations that have been happening inside on the third and the final day of the 20th AGOA Forum here at the Johannesburg Expo Center.
And our viewer, Minister Mulenga, bringing up a very pertinent question that Africa had been grappling with, the whole issue around beneficiation. In other words, the materials and commodities that are exported, polished elsewhere in the world, and then Africa having to repurchase those at exorbitant prices does not bode well for the growth and potential of the continent. But, you know, one trusts that these things will be ventilated and change will certainly materialize in the trajectory of the economic growth of the continent. But we'll leave it there for now. That's Aviwe Mtila, eNCA reporter, out at the AGOA Forum as it wraps up today. A little bit later on, we're also expecting President Cyril Ramaphosa and Trade and Industry Minister Ibrahim Patel to also address us as they wrap up AGOA.